Big news coming out of Carrow Road, as we exclusively revealed in the Eastern Daily Press and Norwich Evening News this morning. The managing director, Steve Stone, has left the club. Now, the exit has not actually been confirmed by the Canaries yet, but we understand Stone's indefinite leave started last week and that he wasn't at Carrow Road on Saturday before the 1-0 defeat to Stoke. So we just want to quickly take you through the timeline of the event and basically what it means for the club in the interim. Obviously, we'll hope for a bit more explanation from the club pretty quickly, but let's just take you through the timeline. Stone arrived as finance director in April 2015. He'd previously been with Gala Bingo, who are the parent company of Coral. Just over a year later, he became interim chief executive when David McNally quit the club. I'm sure you'll all remember that in the time when the club were getting relegated from the Premier League. Was overlooked for the role at the time, and Jez Moxey then came in. That didn't last very long, of course, and Jez was gone in February 2017, so that's when Stone became interim CEO again. But of course, the restructure of the club started in April 2017, which is when Stuart Webber arrived as sporting director and Steve Stone was appointed managing director. So in the interim time, obviously we had a lot going on the pitch, and that has meant a lot of financial cost cutting, which of course Steve Stone has been involved in a lot. He was officially appointed to the board in 2018 of this year, and then as of today, October 2018, it looks like Steve Stone has moved on. So let's move up here to how that leaves the Norwich City board as things stand. Of course, question marks here for where Steve Stone was. You've got Delia Smith and Michael Wynne-Jones as the majority shareholders, Ed Balls as chairman, Michael Folger, of course, local businessman. His company, Banham Poultry, been in the headlines a lot recently. His deputy chair, long-time member of the board, came in with Delia and Michael over 20 years ago. Tom Smith, of course, nephew of Delia and Michael, who we expect to take over the club potentially one day. We'll see what happens down the line with that. Stephen Phillips, the other director, who of course was involved with Arch, the parent company of the Eastern Daily Press back in the day as well. So the club's board is limited to 7 as far as we are aware, which of course leaves a space, and we'll see what that leaves. So as I say, we're awaiting confirmation from City for the full details. Whether there'll be full explanation on that for the time being, we will see, but rather helpfully, the finances are being pulled together at the moment for the annual financial report ahead of the annual general meeting, which is expected to be next month. It's usually in November, sometimes late October. So of course that meeting at Carrow Road, when shareholders will get their opportunity to put the questions to these board members and get a bit more explanation as to what's going on. But of course that means there's lots of questions flying around this morning and lots of people speculating about all sorts of things. But of course that means we're putting some questions together. So why now, what next, and what was Steve's legacy really? In terms of why now, is it freeing up a space on the board? Has the club got somebody lined up that they wanted to get in? Could that be Stuart Webber, of course, sporting director? He isn't a member of the board at the moment. Had the club decided that needs to change and that Stuart should be on the board? Will it mean a slight restructure again? All these things sort of go on in the background. In terms of the football, it's not going to affect things too much. Of course, things are picked up on the pitch for Daniel Farke's team. They just been on an 8-game unbeaten run. Unfortunately, that came to an end against Stoke on Saturday. But of course, Steve Stone was very much a man dealing with the finances, dealing with the business side of things. Stuart Webber is in charge of that, and of course Daniel Farke in charge of the team. So we can't expect this to have too much of an effect. But everything now is sort of pinned on that AGM. One of the questions, who's going to take on the interim appointment? Will it be someone who is already within the club? Is an appointment already lined up? These are the sort of questions we're looking to be answered quite quickly. But just to finally to have a look back on as I've described it as legacy, Steve Stone, I think a guy generally proved pretty popular with fans. When he took over as managing director, the big word was communication, that the fans didn't feel the club were being as open and as communicative with fans as they could have been. And Steve has always been a very open individual and has dealt with fan groups quite a lot. Of course, he's spoken a lot about rail standing, the potential that the club would like to see that coming in. The Academy bond earlier this year, Steve was clearly involved with that, as he had experience of it in, he'd invested in Cheltenham Racecourse, I think it was. And I think widely, Steve Stone will be remembered as being somebody who had a positive impact on the club and has been pretty popular. But now we await to see why he's left Carrow Road and we'll have to see what the club have got to say about it when it's confirmed. Head over to PinkUn.com for the full story. Michael Bailey broke that news this morning in the papers, and his analysis of Steve's time at the club is also over at PinkUn.com.